Fire seasons like the one we just had have been decades in the making. So how do we and our environment adjust? It's a serious question for everyone. I mean, right down to firefighters who are currently fending off a new form of human idiocy.
So what is the point of this challenge again?
You got me.
It's got firefighters wasting their time when they need to be on high alert for wildfires. And one of Colorado's biggest music festivals is promoting and selling tickets before they have permission to put on the show. But we are all clear for this unusual nighttime edition of Next. This is not the Olympic swim trials, but let's dive in anyway. Our conversations about how bad wildfires could be this coming summer often focuses on last year's record-setting fires in Colorado, which sort of misses the point. This is not a 1 or 2 year thing that is coming our way. Here's Anusha Roy.
South Metro Fire is worried our lush green surroundings have lulled some of us into a false sense of security.
I actually think that our guards are down right now.
Firefighters are preparing for round 2 after last year's gigantic fires.
We are preparing for a very intense wildfire season, but we never know. Colorado weather is very dynamic.
It's more than our quick changing weather and just our state. It's the long-term changes the National Center for Atmospheric Research meteorologist Jeff Weber is weighing in on.
Summer months will be hotter than normal and drier than normal.
The comparisons are from over the last 30 years.
And then with that persistent dryness, there's been a mega drought in the western United States for the past 20 years.
You've probably put 2 and 2 together by now. Between the rain followed by the heat, there is a lot of fuel that can combust, and our forests are ripe for catching fire.
I would say for this year's fire season, I would expect a similar season as to what we had last year.
Which even for fire experts like Weber was intense and too close to home. These are his own photos from last year. He took people in who evacuated, watched a wall of smoke approach homes, and as scary as that was, Weber is thinking big picture, including a persistent ridge over the western United States that he says continues to dry and warm that part of the country. Our forests are trying to adapt.
Change in how the ecosystem may develop over the next decade to adapt to what we're looking at as far as future climate. And so we may see fewer pines in Colorado, maybe replaced more by aspen and other types of bushes and shrubs.
So you might see aspens first because they tend to grow more quickly in open spaces, like when a fire goes through a forest. And then you see the pines further down the road years later. And that's just kind of naturally how things work in a forest, which is just a very much Reader's Digest version of how all of that works. But Kyle, you know, my main takeaway from today was that this is not just about looking at the short term, right, which is protecting your homes, being smart when you're out in public, but also really paying attention to what happens to our landscape over the next 10, 20, 30 years.
You know, Anusha, and I think every year people try to figure out what area of Colorado is most at risk. I remember, 5 to 10 years ago, everybody was talking beetle kill, and then all of a sudden you had a fire burn inside the city limits of Colorado Springs, and you had a fire in Black Forest. And then everybody was worried about western Colorado being so dry last year, and it was northern Colorado that was burning, even into the fall. What do we think about what areas are most at risk in this season to come?
Yeah, there's a couple of things that are a little bit different from last year. One is both experts today said that there's actually overall more fuel, more vegetation that's grown that could dry out and then potentially catch fire. But again, beetle kill is going to be an issue this year. And Weber, who you heard from, actually pointed out a couple of specific spots around the state, including along the I-70 corridor, as well as Berthoud Pass, just a couple of spots that he thinks could become problematic with these wildfires.
All right. Anusha, thank you very much. Speaking of fires, lighting them on purpose to be cool on the interwebs. Certainly not how you Colorado. South Metro mentioned to Anusha today that they have been swamped with calls lately for grass and brush fire, and they're blaming the internet. Well, the people who are watching YouTube videos about how easily seed cotton from cottonwood trees burns, and then deciding that they're going to go out and set some cotton fires that quickly spread.
The challenge was initially done in a place where it had higher humidity. We in Colorado, we don't have that. It's basically gathering the cotton and setting them on fire because it looks cool, but that looks cool maybe in a higher humidity area. Here, you're going to set fire, you're going to cause a wildland fire, and you're going to get an arson charge.
Yeah, they're not joking on the arson thing. In the last month, South Metro has cited several teenagers, as well as some supposedly full-grown Coloradans, with fourth-degree arson. So you got 3 straight days at 100 degrees in Denver. You know that's not normal, especially this early. We want you to meet meteorologist Chris Bianchi. He's new to our team, not new to Colorado. He knows all kinds of stuff.
Well, we did it again. 100 degrees again on Thursday. And this, folks, is getting pretty unusual. To get 3 straight days like this, 100 plus going back to Tuesday, 101 on Tuesday, 100 on Wednesday, 100 on Thursday. Well, for our long-term average in Denver, we average less than 100-degree day per year. We've only seen 98 of them going back to 1872, but that number has notably increased in the last 9 years. Now, that's due to a couple of different things. One, first and foremost, our climate, it's warming. But the other part of it is our official observation site is at Denver International Airport, which is slightly warmer during these warm summer days.
Coming to a city near you this summer, one time only, live and in person. It's Colorado's Independent Redistricting Commission. You wanted it to be a monster truck rally. I wanted it to be a monster truck rally. But Gravedigger is not going to save American democracy. The independent commissioners, who are taking their first ever stab at redrawing our political boundary lines, because you voted for them to do that, they want to hear from you about the process. So they're going to tour the state in July and August. Be on the lookout for them in your community. They are going to start in Lamar and end in Colorado Springs. It's probably not going in a straight line, because that would be just 2 months in like La Junta, then Rocky Ford, and then Pueblo, and then up to the Springs. The Democrats, who have total control over state government right now, have turned Colorado into the land of the fee. Their largest new spending project with those fees, not taxes, which would require voter approval, is a fee-based transportation overhaul signed into law today. Governor did the signy stuff along I-70 at the base of Floyd Hill. He was stoked about it. Democrats passed that bill over the objections of Republicans in the legislature, who say that these fee increases on gas and on deliveries and on ride shares are really just tax hikes in disguise. There are 2 conservative tax policy groups that are pushing ballot initiatives next year that would reduce Colorado's gas tax to offset the new fees. This new law injects a lot of money, $5.3 billion into infrastructure and transit projects over the next 11 years.
This isn't the bill that any one person would have written. No doubt, it would look different if it was the effort of one person, including if it was just mine. But our work together shows that we can compromise, solve problems, and I think Washington could learn a few things from that kind of Colorado leadership.
The law also spends money to promote the use of electric vehicles, as well as some money for mass transit. And it gets behind a proposal for a commuter rail line that would serve the Front Range, clear from Wyoming down to New Mexico. All-Star Game coming to Denver is a beautiful reminder that there are competitive baseball teams in other cities across America, and their best players will be coming to Colorado to join at least one league-mandated Rocky on the roster. The celebratory banners are going up around town, and that one burns a little bit. It's everybody's favorite St. Louis Cardinal, Nolan Arenado. He is right there on 20th Street next to Coors Field, sandwiched in between the stadium and McGregor Square, the Rockies' new massive real estate development. That's a tough call on what you do with that Nolan sign when Major League Baseball hands that over. I mean, either you put Nolan up right outside of Coors Field, knowing that that's going to break Rockies fans' hearts to see it, or you hide Nolan away on some side street in town, which does not seem fair to one of the all-time talents in the game. I think you put Nolan front and center at Coors Field one more time. Programming note, next is going to shift later tomorrow night as well. We'll be on at 7 o'clock after golf tomorrow. So just consider us the 19th hole. Drink of your choice. Hot weather used to mean some pretty miserable shifts for firefighters back in the day. The technology that's helping to make it bearable now is not exactly new. And one of Colorado's biggest country concerts is putting the cart before the horse.
The fact is, we haven't had the hearing for that yet.
They're promoting and selling tickets to a festival that might not happen. Could be a real dumpster fire. A fire fest, I guess you could call it. I can go check to see if that name's taken. We'll talk about it next. I've taken a lot of grief from the next team for being a country music fan, about how all the songs are really just the same. There's a breakup or a breakdown. There's a hot summer full of love, or you're left holding on to tickets to a country music festival that doesn't have a permit to exist yet. That last song, that's being written in Colorado right now. Marshall Zellinger gives us a listen.
Cannot wait for Seven Peaks Festival, Labor Day weekend.
Union, tickets are on sale till Friday.
Tickets are on sale this week for Seven Peaks Festival. It's finally happening, don't freak out.
That's country music star Dierks Bentley talking about his Labor Day weekend festival in Buena Vista called Seven Peaks. The other headliners are Keith Urban and Clay Walker. Pre-sales started Monday. Tickets for the general public go on sale tomorrow. There's just one problem.
The fact is, we haven't had the hearing for that yet.
Even though the festival will be on private property, it's planned for more than 500 people, so it needs a special event permit by Chaffee County commissioners, including Chairman Greg Feldt.
We're not like the metro area where things get big or out of hand, or we have some kind of emergency that you just call over to the next, town that looks more or less like part of the same big city, right? Our towns are in the middle of nowhere. So we really have to plan this out.
Live Nation, which sponsors the event, has filled out the special event permit application. However, the public hearing to consider it doesn't happen until Tuesday, after tickets have been sold. The county approved this festival the last 3 years, though last year's did not happen because of COVID, which brings up another issue.
Until the Board of Health changes the public health order, if and when that happens, we are at a 5,000 person capacity.
The application for the Seven Peaks Festival estimates 20,000 people, plus 700 staff and performers. In an email sent to the Chaffee County Commissioners 2 weeks ago, Live Nation acknowledged ruffling some feathers and then apologized because we are about to ruffle a few more feathers. Selling a ticket before getting your approval is not how we wish to operate. It's not great for building our relationship with your community, and the thought of refunding a number of tickets is not great either. We have to go on sale now to give this festival its best chance. We think and hope we will earn the permit and have a successful event. We know if we wait to go on sale, the success of the event will be in jeopardy.
I need to not prejudge this application. We need to look at it on its own merits, but it does increase maybe the pressure a little bit.
Every other year that this festival was approved, the permit came first, then the tickets went on sale. So now you have something where the Seven Peaks website says in all caps at the bottom, all sales are final, no refunds or exchanges. So you've got a problem. You either have perhaps a festival that isn't permitted and you've sold tickets to it, or you have a capacity problem where not everybody who bought may be able to go. So I reached out to the promoter and asked about those two things, refunds and how do you determine who can go in and who can't if your capacity is lower than you think it is. And a spokesperson got back to me with some information, Kyle, just not to those questions.
Not even by 8:15 at night. We gave him an extra 2 hours, Marshall.
And they're on the East Coast, and I got an answer at it was 2 o'clock our time. We're not going to have anybody for your story. So I asked those questions and got information, but it did not address the only questions I asked in the email. Here we are still. And I let them know. You provided me information. I appreciate it. Not to what I asked you.
Yeah, the game you play with politicians all the time. All right, Marshall Zellinger reporting from some verdant place. If that's his backyard, that's very impressive. And he's wearing the exact same shirt that I saw Clay Walker perform in a few years back. Thank you, Marshall. A train has no name. Or at least the A-Line won't, once CU's naming rights sponsorship ends. Luckily for RTD, you have already come up with some excellent replacement names. Feeling the heat out at the call and back at the station. Nothing was easy in the olden times, including being a Denver firefighter in triple-digit heat. What's cool is how much easier we all have it now. Next. That was kind of soothing. The A-Line train, which limped out of the station to start years ago, has really since gotten its poop in a group, and now it is happily and reliably chugging back and forth from Union Station to the airport each day. But the train to the plane needs a new name, with the recent news that University of Colorado is not renewing its naming rights deal. You smart folks have some pretty good ideas. Trainee McPlane's the kind of name we knew we'd hear, Gene delivered. The unsinkable Trolley Brown is the name we didn't know we needed, from Russell. I kind of like Henry's idea of calling it the Fly Line. Jan wondered, why not just go with Train to the Plane? Well, that makes too much sense, Jan. Bob's suggestion, the airline has a certain cool to it. Now, the confusion you'll remember is that the University of Colorado A-line did not go to the University of Colorado. It goes all the way out to DIA, or as Tom suggested, with the best idea we heard, the Visit Nebraska A-line. That's good, Tom.
100 degrees in Denver today, the third day with 100 degrees or better and another record. But a cooling trend on the way, and we are ready for it after breaking that record of 98 today. We have a weak front coming in early tomorrow morning, more of a wind shift than anything else, but there may be enough moisture coming in with that front that we may increase the chance for a few thunderstorms that actually have some rain, more than just wind and lightning, maybe some rain. And it is Friday. Tonight, partly cloudy, hazy, windy, our low at 62. Tomorrow, cooler, high 90, 30% chance of rain from storms heading into the weekend with weekend high temperatures in the 80s. Father's Day Sunday, and for the first full day of summer on Monday, how about a cool high of 73?
You know, firefighting is hot work even on chilly days. Then imagine donning that gear on a day like today, or worse yet, doing it in the summertime before firefighters had a cool place to rest between calls. Next viewer, Patty, brought this up in an email to us this week. So when you think back, Denver's first fire station was built in 1867. And some relatively old firehouses are still around and still in use. The oldest one still operating is Station 3 in 5 Points. It was built in 1931, obviously before central air, which means that on the super hot days back then and before that, firefighters had to sweat it out as they were waiting for their next hot call.
It was just a necessary evil. People didn't understand some of the creature comforts that you and I have today. When we can walk into a home or to a business when it's 100 degrees outside and be comforted by 70, 72 degree ambient air inside. So when our firefighters are working at any given fire, an emergency, it's not easy for them to keep their core temperature down because the ambient air is higher than their body temperature.
And that old Station 3 does not have AC even now. It does have swamp coolers, which keep those firefighters comfortable. Wildlife on the move, in vehicles. It's the most Colorado thing we saw today. Plus your feedback next. The most Colorado thing we saw today are basically taxidermy taxis. That is not a Dodge, but it is a Ram that was spotted in Salida by our viewer Kathleen. So the best part of this is that Kathleen told us she happened to be going out to Waterton Canyon this day with a friend. They wanted to see if they could spot some bighorn sheep. Waterton was closed for repairs, seems like it always is, but Kathleen got to see her sheep. More animal migration on Colorado's road sighted in Denver this week. A former bear on the move at Havana and Smith. I would not have been able to tell you the anchor points on a taxidermied bear, but it appears they put the straps on just like suspenders and fastened them down to the truck bed. I don't know why I love this so much. I could just stare at these pictures all day. Send us the most Colorado things you see, even if they are not taxidermied. Email next@9news.com or use the hashtag #HeyNext. RB caught our story on the renaming of the A-line train to the plane, and RB tells us, I named it Rudy weeks after it was put into service. I thought, oh yeah, like the Notre Dame football player, you know, scrappy guy that you always want to root for. No, RB says, named after my ex-husband because we too had trust issues. Not to pry, I hope that things improved with your ex just like they did with the A-line. See you next time.